Wait, stop. 20 seconds into Windbreaker, and what conclusions have you drawn? No, seriously, take a moment to think about it. Why would I even pose this as a question? When we watch shows, it's easy to get lost in the motion of the story, and Windbreaker definitely gives you a lot of motion. But Windbreaker also does what a lot of good shows do. It immediately communicates something to us within the first 20 seconds of its runtime. If we just take some time to breathe and stay present with the show, our viewing experience improves. At least that's the case with this series and series that win us over. Stay present with it and we instantly notice the reason why it wins us so early on, and we realize why this show will definitely be good. And yes, that is a statement. You don't have to be a prophet to see that Windbreaker is going to be a dope series. The secret sauce that I've been ranting about for the past 30 seconds is what's responsible for it being good, and that is symbolic weight. I love shows that use symbols and metaphors to tell the story. In the case of Windbreaker, we have the tightrope and our main character Haruka Sakura, who is walking on it. We already know so much about the series just from this. He's battling himself. He's walking a line between two different ideals or two parts of himself. Before we even see his character design with the black and white hair looking like XXXTentacion, God bless his soul, we understand that he is a character torn between two parts of himself. The wind pelts him as he tries to walk across the tightrope, hopefully trying to reach a higher ideal than his current self. The gust trying to knock him over is appropriate given the name of the series, Windbreaker. The most powerful thing that this scene does is that it foreshadows its own importance as a scene in the series. We will definitely be seeing this tightrope again. It's tied to him as a symbol for the struggle of his inner world. This dark, eerie scene has symbolic weight. Now, the comments about him in this flashback paints an image of a main character who is not an ideal citizen. In fact, he's pretty far from that. The general public doesn't think Sakura should be a part of them. That much we can understand. The question we're left wondering is why? And there it is. They've given you a why, a reason to watch the show, and suddenly you are hooked. Sakura does not appear like a total victim in all of this craziness that he is experiencing. He also states that he personally doesn't mess with the general public either. In fact, his first line in the show is, "I love the strong and I have no interest in the weak." Which is pretty much a jab to everyone who ostracized him. Let's keep it a buck. We soon learn that Sakura measures a man based on how well they can fight, how well they can throw hands. We also learn that his character does have a little bit of empathy and compassion, and he may have been misjudged in his past. And the character which is brought in to bring out these humanizing traits like self-doubt, bravery, and compassion in Haruka Sakura is this cool girl known as Kotoha Tachibana. He's forced to play the role of Captain Save-A-Ho for her, and he gets her out of a tight spot. From this point, we understand that Sakura is pretty strong, and contrary to what he says earlier, he does actually care about the weak. Sakura and Kotoha get to talking, and she surgically points out that he is alone. He is a loner, and she makes it very clear that this isolation will stop him from being the person he wants to be. He wants to be a great fighter and a big figure in Furin, but his isolation will be to his own downfall. Now, as soon as she says this and points it out to him, he flashes back to the tightrope. In this moment, we learn something very important about the series, which is every time the screen goes black around Sakura. He's mentally going back to that lonely place of self-hate and being hated by everyone around him. That tightrope scene that we've seen from the beginning of the show. That's why it's so important. It now has symbolic weight. Suddenly the tightrope is a trigger in the viewer's minds, and it instantly reminds us of the dark place that Sakura is trying to escape from. Now, its appearance in this scene means that she clearly hits a nerve with her words. In fact, Windbreaker as a whole hits a nerve, mainly the optic nerves. What I'm trying to say is that this series is easy on the eyes. About 50 different shades of green consistently permeate on your screen while watching this show. It's the main color of Sakura's new school, Furin High, and it is also a visual motif that repeats itself through the clothing, street signs, and plants. We also keep seeing wind chimes, which are obviously a reference to his school, Japanese culture, and the overarching wind motif, which is locked into the series' identity due to its name, Windbreaker. Another visual component that the first episode had in abundance was great animation and well choreographed fight scenes. Often when we watch shonen, as I've pointed out in a lot of different videos, the visual component of fight scenes and the choreography around them is a very important component. Hey guys, I've prepared a mind map of my thoughts on Windbreaker, produced by Cloverworks. You have the main character, as I've already said, Haruka Sakura, you've got Kotoha Tachibana, and you have this great fight sequence that I just thought we should take a look at real quickly. It's so hard. What I really like is just the camera angles and the consistent movement of tracking that the camera follows Sakura around with. There's a lot of great moments from episode 1, and I think this will continue throughout the series. So we had someone cracking a joke that they found Inumaki in the Windbreaker universe, Inumaki from Jujutsu Kaisen. And at Furin there is a group of students that protects people, and these guys are known as Bo Furin. And they built this sign which is meant to represent the city, and it says, anyone past this point who brings destruction, who holds evil in their heart, will be purged by Bo Furin without exception. The green that pops up in the series, I had some thoughts about it. This is what green means in Japanese culture, supposedly. Green, or Midori, is one of the lucky colors in Japan. It's also associated with growth, youthfulness, fertility, and vitality. I think in the case of Windbreaker, it's definitely about the vitality and the growth that we're going to be seeing in Sakura. The color is popular in Japan as it represents freshness and restfulness. Tea is another important part of Japanese culture, and matcha green stands out with a particular shade of green. In Japan, nature is also very important, and they celebrate Greenery Day every April to show respect for all things green and natural. So that's pretty much this month. I noticed that the wind motif really reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, the emblem that they used for wind in Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And Windbreaker as a series, if we just look through the visual component of it, is really well colored. I think the way it makes you feel when you're watching it, there's no overpowering colors. A lot of the palette is very muted, so the main color that they're trying to make stand out, which is of course green, is always prominent in the series and always stands out. I even like how they handled the jackets, because I'm assuming that the jackets were supposed to be green on green, but they've somewhat just taken a very black, very darkened blackish shade of green, and they've kind of just made it a black on green on gold, which sells a lot better with the white tees that everyone needs to wear. Obviously, when we were watching the opening, there was a bunch of new characters. There were also a bunch of different motifs in the opening. You see 2 blackbirds at the start, also representing winds. There's petals which fly in the scene, of course wind, the wind chimes, and there's this character who happens to grow tomatoes, and that seems to be a very huge motif, at least for the opening. Him growing tomatoes. Again, I spoke about green being the color of growth, and we're going to be watching Haruka Sakura grow in the series. What I'm hoping for from this main character is that we watch him develop as a person. We watch him become better, and we watch him conquer what a lot of main characters don't necessarily have to conquer in shonen, which is themselves. I think it would be great if we slowly discover that he's also a little bit of a crap person and he has to conquer those parts of himself. Somewhat like Endeavor from My Hero Academia, but not as much. And without anything left to do, that is Windbreaker episode 1, and how Windbreaker wins you over in a few seconds.